With the help of my instructions, if you realize that the I does not exist, then your understanding is firm and unshakable. The world and the I exist only as notions, not as fact, nor as reality. They cease to be when one inquires, who am I? And how has this world arisen? The realization of the non-existence of the I is nirvana or liberation. I think possibly a lot of people are quite perplexed, especially when they come to Buddhism, for example, and nirvana, which is often described in quite negative terms, negative in the sense of taking away, sometimes expressed as personal extinction, and such thinking would only surely appeal to would-be suicides. It's not like that at all, absolutely not. It's all about identifying with notions. It's that identification with notions which gets extinguished. We identify with a notional reality. We've got ideas about things, and rather than realizing that they're simply ideas, we take them as reality. We say, this is how things are. There's a world there. There's a me here. This me here is walking around in this world there. The scientists go along with this, and they try and explain away consciousness as something which has arisen out there to give some quirky understanding that there's something in here called consciousness. It's completely topsy-turvy. These are all ideas. They're all models, if you like. A good scientist realizes that all scientific theory is theory. We use theories as parameters or models for working with. And very often these models are quite effective. So the theory becomes spoken of as fact. I'm talking about scientists here, but this is what goes on in all our lives. You know, if you're a racist, then you'll gather evidence and information to reinforce your beliefs, and calmly ignore everything which contradicts these beliefs. It's perhaps not a very savoury example, but this is what we're doing all the time. It's what meat eaters do. That's perhaps more all-encompassing. You describe your behaviour as natural. You describe the breeding, captivity and slaughter of millions of sentient beings every day in order to satisfy your own taste inclinations. You describe this as natural. This is your idea about things, and you'll avoid the extraordinary amount of suffering that such beliefs inflict, because this is simply how things are. This is reality. So it's not about personal extinction. It's about the extinction of limiting notions of personal identity. That's what it's about. It's about realizing the infinite nature of the consciousness which we arise within. There's nothing to grieve, as we're often told. We think we've got to let go of all these things which we're attached to. All we've got to let go of is our attachments. There's nothing to let go of otherwise. The light of this realization dispels the darkness of ignorance. Therefore, one should inquire till the end of one's life, who am I? How did this world arise? what is jiva, or the individual personality, and what is life, as instructed by the knowers of the truth. So one should inquire till the end of one's life. This is the practice, this is spiritual practice. This inquiry needs to be going on because there's a natural tendency to identify with our notions. And if we don't pursue inquiry, then that tendency is going to establish itself. And it's described in the next chapter as expansion and expansion in the consciousness. These notions become the reality, they take over, they expand. So what can we do about it? When you betake yourself to the company of the knowers of truth, the light of their self-knowledge dispels the darkness of ignorance and its retinue, including the ego sense. Hence, keep their company. As I've mentioned before, it's great if you've got that option. It might have been easier at one time, but the knowers of truth are quite hard to discern. Resort to these knowers of truth in privacy, not in public, for when different people express different points of view, your understanding may be stunted or perverted. The wise man should approach the knower of truth in privacy, learn the truth and contemplate that truth. This contemplation dispels the cloud of concepts and notions which cast a shadow on consciousness. So it says, resort to these knowers of truth. This is a problem when you go along to a spiritual group, even an Advaita group. A good teacher there should be able to keep things on a steady course. And the excuse here for avoiding public meetings, it doesn't really follow, because your understanding may be stunted or perverted by the teacher, if the teacher is not a good knower of truth. You have to apply your own discrimination here, not only to others in the group, but to the teacher. And it's not about judging the teacher, it's about taking on board what the teacher says, and if it's not pertinent to self-enquiry, reject it. If it is pertinent to self-enquiry, then practice self-enquiry. That's the bottom line. The teacher might not even be particularly good, but if that's your attitude, then you can go along to a group, go along to a teacher, and you can still use it. You can still use the group, use the teaching to direct yourself to your own self-enquiry. Anything else is extraneous and diverting.